She was convicted for killing her 4 children, but now a petition is calling for Kathleen Folbigg to be pardoned. The petition, signed by 90 scientists, says new medical evidence about a mutant gene carried by 2 of the Folbigg children creates a strong presumption they died from natural causes. In the joint statement, they go on to say the entire time that Kathleen Folbigg has been in custody is a result of a miscarriage of justice. This year, Ms. Folbigg has been incarcerated for 18 years of her life. To help us understand the background of this case and what it means for Ms. Folbigg going forward, we'll bring in our true crime expert, Amanda Howard. Amanda, thank you for joining us tonight.
Hi guys, great to be here again.
Look, always good to have you here. Look, we've actually covered this story on our podcast, Monsters Who Murder, and from the get-go, you always told me there was more to this story. Bring us up to speed on this case.
Well, Kathleen was actually found guilty of murdering 4 of her babies. 3 of them were actually murders and 1 was a manslaughter. The babies were actually ranged in age from 19 weeks to 19 months, and the killings apparently occurred between 1989 and 1999. So it was a 10-year period, and this woman is losing baby after baby, and it just become an absolute fiasco.
Now, the evidence has shown that there were diary entries that appeared to see that she was thinking about taking her children's lives. Here are some of those diary entries which are read out by an actor from Australian Story. I'll get your thoughts about this afterwards.
November 9, January 1, 1997, October 1997. I know there's nothing wrong with her. Nothing out of the ordinary anyway. Because it was me, not them. Wouldn't have handled another like Sarah. She saved her life by being different. That stress made me do terrible things. Got so bad I nearly purposely dropped her on the floor and left her. What scares me most will be when I'm alone with the baby. With Sarah, all I wanted was her to shut up. And one day she did.
What was the reaction to those diary entries, Amanda?
Well, her husband actually found these diaries and he produced them to the police once they started to investigate. And he sort of said these sort of proved that she was actually trying to kill her children. And it's just about a matter of interpretation. You know, she did say things like that she thought that Laura would leave like Sarah did, you know, and she was short-tempered and cruel sometimes, and that she ended up that she left with a bit of help. So that's a direct quote from Kath. And going through all of that, I actually, I've been speaking to Kathleen Folbigg for almost 10 years now, and I actually asked her about that quote about Sarah left and she expected Laura would leave like Sarah did. And her response to this, and I'll read it verbatim. So she said, yeah, I was cruel to her, I admit, and thoughts of frustration over how to help her when she was incessantly crying, as babies sometimes do. They weren't harmful thoughts, but thoughts of leaving, then the guilt at even leaving the room, let alone walking outside, all originating from total and utter exhaustion. Feelings of abandonment by my husband and extreme pressure of the picture I had of having me to be the perfect mother, wife and person. My utter inconsolable guilt, not being able to save her siblings or even see something wasn't quite right. My mind was scrambling for an excuse or reason, a justification for all my failings as a mother and the pressure from the others that had already gone.
Now, Amanda, there's been an appeal and an inquiry, both of which failed to overturn the conviction. Why is there still a belief she is innocent?
Because these appeals and inquiries aren't actually going into what's happening and the evidence that has been provided. So the evidence that is there shows that her children had genetic anomalies that actually caused death. And another one of them had cardiac issues that came down from Craig Folbigg's family line. So even the coroner who did 2 of the autopsies believed that the children died of natural causes. But then when someone told him, yeah, but she's lost other children, he then changed the reason of death to murder.
Okay, interesting. So we've seen these new developments today with 90 scientists signing a petition for her to be pardoned. What is it they're actually saying in this petition?
Well, it's for the case to actually be reopened and investigated properly, because what's happened is that she was convicted on what is called Meadows law, and if they look at the case from the right perspective and not from his perspective, it becomes a very, very different and powerful thing to actually look at. But because they've gone through with this theory, it's just not helped at all.
Now, I've got to say, Folbigg's guilt, from what you've told me previously, was based on the testimony of Dr. Ophoven, who testified to the statistics, a word I can't say, known as Meadows Law, who says 1 death is tragic, 2 deaths are suspicious, 3 deaths are murder, until proven otherwise. But hasn't that theory and this man been discredited?
Absolutely. I mean, his statistics were that the chance of there being 2 sudden infant deaths in one family is 1 in 73 million. So in UK, where he was from, that would mean that it would happen once every 100 years in Great Britain. So he's basically saying there's really no such thing. But since then, it's actually been proven that SIDS happens along family lines. It's often that children who are born after a previous SIDS death in the family, those children are then given extra breathing apparatuses and things like that, just to make sure that they don't follow that same route, because we know what happens. There is this follow-on effect that these children do die in the same family. And this law, I mean, he was totally wrong, and he was actually discredited for all of his cases and other cases that he testified at, and Ophoven actually testified in Australia using this law. The other mothers in the UK were actually exonerated and released, and one of them, Sally Clark, who was a solicitor who went to jail for killing her 2 babies and then was found to be not guilty purely because of his statistics. She actually ended up dying from an alcohol-related disease purely because of the trauma that this case had sort of bestowed on her, besides the grief that she had from having these 2 young babies die.
And Amanda, do you think the petition will actually work? Do you think she will be freed?
I mean, we can only hope. If it does come through and they actually look at the proper evidence in the case, and they have all these scientists that have now come forward and vouch for the correct data that is out there, and I actually have most of the files on my website, but to think that there is a grieving mother who lost 4 of her children and has been in jail for 18 years. So not only has she had all of this grief, she's also had the trauma of incarceration. I mean, is there any worst travesty of justice to actually have something like this happen? And she is more stoic than I have seen anyone be. As I said, I've been speaking to her for many, many years now, and she sees the headlines and she hears all these horrible names they have, that they call her the worst woman in Australia and all of this. And there is this chance that if the experts are saying the evidence doesn't equal a conviction, we've put an innocent woman in jail.
Well, you can hear more true crime from Amanda Howard, who's also known as the Serial Killer Whisperer, by downloading the Monsters Who Murder Serial Killer Confessions podcast. And what was that website, Amanda? AmandaHoward.com, is it?
AmandaHoward.com.au. So don't go to just .com, because there is a real estate agent in America that gets cranky that she gets my emails. So.
I thought you were going to say something different, because it's usually always porn when you go to the other version.
I thought.
Amanda, thanks for your insight tonight. We love having you on the show. And I've got to say, we've just had a bit of feedback from Philip, who says this news story has been widely covered tonight on several current affairs shows, and this is the best analysis. So well done you.
Thank you, Amanda.